podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
No breaks. No breaks. No fear. No fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Hello and welcome to the very first episode of No Breaks, No Fear, the official British Speedway podcast. I'm Ian Brannan, and every week through the Speedway season, join us for exclusive interviews with key figures of British Speedway, both on and off the track. This week, we kick off with two huge influencers of British Speedway. We're going right to the top table. And a promoter from the Premiership and Championship too, British Speedway Promoters Limited chairman Rob Godfrey, and Ipswich promoter and all-round British Speedway legend Chris Louis.
There's no doubt in my mind that it's the best package that British Speedway's had for a long time.
No, I think it's going to be a very interesting looking Premiership this year and very competitive for sure.
We're also speaking to Wolves and Edinburgh star Sam Masters and how he's excited to be racing against one of his childhood heroes this year.
Oh, when you're a kid and you're seeing Jason Crump, man, you'd get weak at the knees because he was just he was a hero, and I don't forget that.
We'll catch up with Bjarne Pedersen. The ex-Grand Prix star is spending his final year in Speedway, doubling up with Plymouth and Peterborough.
It feels just right. So many seasons over there, and I'm really look forward to it, yeah.
And we're going to be catching up with some of the stars who were in practice action at Leicester earlier this week, and something for the Sheffield Tigers fans, speaking to James Wright and Troy Batchelor.
I'm like the highest average rider in the country and whatnot, but yeah, I'm just worried about myself.
No breaks, no fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Welcome along then to episode 1. Here we go. May I just take this opportunity to suggest that you might want to follow us or subscribe to us on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on, just so you don't miss any future episodes. We're going to be here every Tuesday through the Speedway season between now and the end of October, rounding up and previewing everything that's happening in the sport. Between now and the middle of May, we're going to be looking ahead to what's in store. We can almost smell the methanol. We can almost hear the bikes warming up. It's getting very exciting, and we start at the very top table of British Speedway with the chairman of British Speedway Promoters Limited, Rob Godfrey, and one of his fellow directors and of course promoter at Ipswich, and an all-round British Speedway legend, Chris Louis. Welcome, Rob and Chris.
Hi, Ian.
Hi, Ian. What an introduction that was, eh?
Yeah. A little over the top on my behalf, I think. But there we go.
Mine as well, yeah, absolutely.
I always say you need to start big. But Chris, you were part of one of the greatest British Speedway teams of all time, the Ipswich 98 team. A lot of people regard that as one of the greatest sides ever assembled. So if that doesn't put you on a pedestal, then I don't know what does.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was skipper of that lineup, but it was the easiest job I've ever had. You know, when you're riding with guys like Tony Rickardson and Thomas Golub, it's sort of all fairly easy, really. So I sort of class that as, obviously a very big year for the club and for myself and all of my teammates, but it was just a whole lot of fun, really.
Yeah, I can imagine. What a team, and I'm sure Ipswich 98 will get a few more mentions through the course of the year, I'm fairly sure. Let's turn our attention to the 2021 season then. Rob, obviously this week we've seen in England further relaxations of restrictions, shops opening up. You can have a pint in a beer garden now. You can even get your hair cut. And Speedway will feature in the next round of relaxations as we come towards May. For fans wondering, obviously a lot of work has gone on through the course of the last year to make Speedway be able to happen. What will Speedway look like in this new normal?
Well, we were lucky last year. As I say, we did some tests on the grassroots meetings last year. And I think that's the normal. You know, I think that as long as people social distance for the weeks that we're going to have to do before restrictions are off, I think that we may have to tick it in. But we've got capacity in our stadiums. That's the beauty about Speedway. We've got capacity in our stadiums to make sure it happens, so that everyone can come and watch that wants to come and watch.
I suppose it's the wide open spaces that Speedway has. Obviously, we're not dealing with like football style crowds where everybody's hemmed in together and all that. There are some quite large spaces available at many of the tracks, aren't there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Ipswich has got a big seated stand, obviously, Bellevue, etc. They'll have probably a different set of rules to a track like myself that has got probably just 50 seats. But, you know, government guidelines, talks with DCMS, local councils will be going on, and we will make sure that we're given every opportunity to start the season with spectators that we need. That's the key.
And rules often applied maybe differently in different parts of the country as they see it with different councils and local authorities. What work is going on to try and even the picture up to make sure that all the clubs have as even a chance as possible of having as many fans in as possible?
Well, that's our communication with DCMS. I mean, no one had ever heard of DCMS before COVID had hit, and all we had really was the APPG, was the all-party political group for Speedway that used to represent us in Parliament. But our relationship with DCMS now, we have a caseworker as such. We have a direct line with emails, and we have direct line for information. We get the information as and when it comes from government. So we've got a fantastic rapport with them now. So regarding anybody that's got issues, and I know there was a club up north with an issue this week, we were straight onto DCMS, we were straight onto the APPG, and we're confident that we'll sort that problem.
How many fans do we ideally need through the gates for most clubs in order to make it viable?
Well, based on what the government are telling us, there won't be any issues with spectators. There might be a few bumps in the road. I believe that crowd levels that we saw in 19 will be allowed into the stadiums in 21. So based on, capacities, but there's going to have to be some work to be done on that for that to be achieved, to get that COVID secure policies in place. Once that's in place, and as I say, with the councils that we've been speaking to, all the councils want their stadiums to open, and will help, stadiums for that to happen. No one wants. We've had no negativity from any councils whatsoever that we've encountered. Obviously, we haven't encountered them all, but so far we've had no negativity. So that's the key, and we just want Speedway to get up and running. We'd be proud if it was the first live sport to be back operational in this country with fans in the stadium. We think that it could give us a boost, but ultimately it is to get up and running and get to 22 when hopefully normality in its entirety will return. That's the aim.
And tell us a bit more about the funding that's been received from the government and the DCMS. You mentioned there you've been working with them, but they've helped Speedway out financially quite significantly, haven't they? Yeah,
I mean, there was a pot of money available for, I think it was last November, 300 million was quoted. We weren't in that original feeder pot, but DCMS passed it across to Sport England and tried to identify sports that were in a great need to keep them going so they could restart. So we ended up in that pot of money. They have been any club that had a need for the money and that was in danger of not going to the tapes, got an audience with Sport England, and they together offer them a package to keep them going. Originally, our pot of money now was announced in the Treasury's budget. It's the summer one, of which anybody once again has problems getting to the start tapes. They will be eligible to at least means test for that money. So it's once again. It's new territory to anybody that's been involved with Speedway. This kind of thing. Myself, Chris, Damien, and Matt have had to adapt and talk to these high-profile people and push our sport forward. And I think we've done an exceptional job in getting recognised because people see us as a not a mainstream sport, but these people actually see us as sport with rich history that this country needs to keep going. So it's very encouraging.
And Chris, now turning to you, Rob mentioning there that stadiums with seats might have a little bit of extra work to do versus those more out in the open air. What have your preparations been like at Ipswich, and how are things looking for you?
I think every club is going to look slightly different in terms of their COVID security plans. My attempt to run the British final was doomed in the end. We started with 300 people, which is, if the same social distancing rules are going to apply come May 17th, then that will probably be our limit. Although at the moment, obviously, government are talking about 50% or 4,000, whichever's the lower figure, which would be 4,000 at Vauxhall. So, there's still a few minor unknowns at the moment, and every club will probably look slightly different. But we also want them to be comfortable and enjoy themselves. So, there's a lot of thought going to go into the process of making sure that that's the case.
And looking at the youth scene, some big changes there this year. We've got the Premiership Junior League starting. There's a whole host of National Development League clubs in operation. We've got the Rising Star system. Plenty of chances for the stars of tomorrow to get some extra experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's vital. It's absolutely vital. I think it's no secret that Poland have changed their ways and decided that they want to keep some of the world-class riders to themselves in Poland, and they've got an awful lot of money to be able to do that. So, we've got to look at growing our own talent as we have a rich history of doing. And if you go back through the various generations, we've had some fantastic British riders, some very successful British teams, and we've got to head back to those days. So, that's very much the thinking. And the Rising Star programme is really just to give opportunity, more competitive races and laps to these young guys, and also a bit more structure. We've got the Premiership Junior meetings going ahead, and that again for below the lower end of those Rising Star riders are going to have the opportunity to get more competitive racing. But more importantly, they'll be there with the likes of Jason Crump, Danny King in terms of Ipswich, and obviously a lot of other top riders at other clubs to actually be on hand and help them firsthand and really try and bring them on that much faster. So, we're looking to also get involved with the academy at Team GB, who, under Rob Painter are doing an absolutely fantastic job. I mean, you look at our national team now, Team GB, represented so well on the world scene, looking fantastic, the bikes, the suits, the set up in the pits, and that's just what you see. What goes on behind the scenes with the nutrition and the training and the psychology and everything else is world class. It's the best in world speedway. So other nations are following. We saw Poland working very hard last year and the year before to make strides to sort of basically catch up in that respect. So, we've got some things right, but from a young rider perspective, we just need to be a bit more coherent, make a pathway through the sport, which at the moment there's big gaps in between, and riders are not finding their way to the end. So we've got to make sure that happens.
Yeah, I was going to say, what is the process for coaching them beyond that next step of getting the experience in second halves of meetings and through the lower leagues to getting them into the top league and representing their country? Yeah,
I mean, it's obviously practice sessions for the younger riders at tracks like Rob's at Scunthorpe. Rob does a fantastic job with the younger riders, giving them opportunity for practices, and there's there are a few other tracks, maybe not enough, but that also offer that opportunity. So that's the starting point. But then the training officers that we're now getting involved with, we're now putting a program together to get a few riders and ex-riders sort of trained up, right from British Speedway's point of view, from the Premiership, from the Championship. Those guys will all be trained the same way that the Team GB Academy guys are being trained, and the No Limits guys. So it's all going to be joined up. They'll all be sort of singing from the same hymn sheet, and I think that's going to help an awful lot.
Rob, it does seem that the youth scene in British Speedway is a lot rosier than it has been for quite some time.
Yeah, as I say, we've just done, I think we did 13 practice sessions in 6 days this week, and majority of them were the youngsters, which was really, really good to see. There is an abundance of youth. We've just got to keep them focused, keep them, and like Chris says, there was a lot of them got disheartened. There was no progression route for them. Now we're giving them a progression route. We just need to keep that route open and keep that momentum going now. It's not just about the kids on the 500s now. It's the ones that are just taking us to the 125s. This year, I think we've got the best group of 250s I've seen for a long time. And if we, as I say, can keep them focused, they're the next Speedway riders for the next couple of years. The British Speedway riders will come in abundance, but we have to keep the faith in them, and we have to keep it going. And like Chris said, once again, what Rob Painter's doing, what the No Limits is doing, is secondary, and that we're going to try and integrate that with the youth this year. Chris is involved with that, and maybe give a few more discussions on that. But it is key. It is making them feel wanted, and it is giving them somewhere to end up with. But yeah, as back to your original question, there is a lot of kids about that are interested in turning to Speedway, which is good to see.
And Chris, people often compare Poland whenever people say, we should be doing what Poland are doing, but we are doing that now. That's the point, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that is the point. I think we've let it lapse. We've lagged behind Poland. They've worked very hard on their under-21 sort of age group down tirelessly over the last few years, and you can see by the amount of world-class riders that they're now producing. So, and they've done that in their league program, which was why it was so important for us to start work on the Rising Star program. It's a soft start. And we need to do a lot more, but plans are in place for it to progress over the next 5 years. And I think, it's going to take, 2021 isn't going to make a huge difference, but I think we will see good progression from 2022 onwards. So, I'm really excited to be working with the young lads. I mean, at Ipswich, coming into 2020, we'd already taken that plunge with young Drew Kemp, obviously exciting young rider with a big future in the sport. And I was really looking forward to working with him in 2020. Obviously, it didn't really happen. It was very limited, but he got some decent experience. Particularly, most memorably, probably for most people, was his 8 points I think he scored in the British final. So, he made great strides. And that's the sort of progression that we need more riders to be making over the coming years.
Rob, just looking generally at British Speedway, we've seen a couple of clubs go on hold for this season. We're not going to be seeing Swindon or Somerset, but the intention is for both of those clubs to be back in action in 2022. We do gain Plymouth into the championship, though, and they made some big signings. Jason Crump and Bjarne Pedersen are going to be visiting championship tracks such as yours at Scunthorpe. That's got to be good news for all of the tracks right across British Speedway that they're going to be visiting, isn't it?
It's going to be a massive shot in the arm, to be honest. We're fortunate that with not starting on May the 1st, at May the 21st, I think, Plymouth are our first opponent. So it's it's a massive shot in the arm to see Jason Crump, a legend, and Bjarne Pedersen, a legend, to be hopefully putting the 1 and 5 race jackets on for Plymouth. The Championship and Premiership are reasonably close, but they are quite a distance away from each other in real terms. But it is about British Speedway, I do believe, this year. British Speedway needs to succeed, and if we need to use Jason Crump in our league, then we need to use Jason Crump in our league if he's eligible, and he certainly was eligible. It does need a shot in the arm, and he probably will be the one character that will give it a shot in the arm.
Chris, take us back to, last year, or if not the year before, when you signed Jason Crump. Quite a catch getting a 3-time world champion in your team, especially one that's coming out of retirement. How did it all come about in the first place, Chris? Yeah,
I mean, it's been so frustrating because, a lot of work went on to secure the services of Jason. It was a very interesting time at the end of 2019. I sort of started to hear the rumours from Australia that he was getting fit and getting keen and was actually serious about coming back to the UK. So I actually sent him a text and said, do I need to give you a call? And we sort of had a laugh and a joke. And I made that call, and within a couple of months, the deal was done and he was on his way. So, to have to wait a whole year has been quite frustrating. But we got to see him do a couple of meetings here, and he's certainly done 3 or 4 more in Australia. He's just had a successful operation to put a problem right with his wrist. So he says he's coming back even fitter and more comfortable than he would have been in 2020. So it's all looking good. I'm excited to be working with him. I mean, I've known Jason for since he first came over to these shores. His dad Phil was friends with my dad, and we go back a long way. So I've never had the chance to work with him. So this will be great.
And did you think at any point that you might lose him during the closed season because of the pandemic and Australian restrictions and things like that?
I must admit, when we went into the first lockdown, it was I think 23rd of March. Seems like an age ago now. I did fear that the longer it went on, that the novelty might wear off and he might just change his mind. But I have to say, if anything, it's gone the other way. He's got keener and fitter and stronger. He's invested even more. Not that he needed to. He'd already bought 2 brand new bikes. He bought 2 more brand new engines, took them back to Australia to get more work on them and more laps on them and start to understand them, because they have changed in the 7 or 8 years that he's not been racing competitively. So no, I can honestly say yes, there was a fear initially, but it soon went away when I was getting phone calls from him telling me about all his plans. So it was quite obvious that he wasn't sitting back and just waiting for it to happen.
And you mentioned before about the extra value that he's going to bring around the team in general, not just on the track in the races where he's always a formidable opponent, but he's really going to help those younger guys, probably not even just at Ipswich, but probably around all the tracks he visits throughout the course of the season. Yeah,
this is obviously a stage in his career where he doesn't keep everything close to his chest like he was when he was trying to win world championships. So, he is an outgoing, helpful guy who if you show him a little bit of respect, and I'm sure most people would, is what he deserves. He's a 3 times world champion, so he'll help you, and you should listen, because he wasn't. You don't win that many championships by luck. So, and in our team in particular, we've got a young bottom end in young Geordie Stewart and Anders Rowe, and obviously Drew. So he'll be invaluable to those guys, 100%.
Just to look generally at the Premiership, it's once again slimmed down in terms of only 6 teams competing this year. We would have had Swindon, of course, but they're missing. But slightly different season for you with some fewer fixtures and that kind of thing. But some interesting teams this year.
You're talking about 6 teams and the fixtures. We obviously the fixture list is out, but it has got to change, and there are very good reasons why it's been delayed considerably since we found out that the new start to the season would be May 17th. But it should be out very early next week. So, and it's going to be great, because, to be honest, yes, there's only 6 teams, but I think there'll be 6 evenly matched teams, and with the condensed season, we're still doing 2 home, 2 away. The action's going to come thick and fast, so you're not going to have to wait too long for your team to race in its next meeting. So, I think it's going to be a very interesting looking Premiership this year, and very competitive for sure.
And which teams do you see in the final at the end of it all?
It's whoever's with Ipswich, obviously.
Yeah, Ipswich is one of them. Who's the opposition?
Who will be the opposition? I don't know. I mean, it does look really, really competitive. Obviously, some teams have had to make more changes than others. And, I think in the end, in the mix-up, I think Sheffield looked solid. I think Bellevue looked extremely good. Wolverhampton didn't have to do too much and still looked very solid. So, what can I say? It's going to be interesting.
And in terms of the Championship, Rob, same question for you. Which teams have caught your eye so far?
Well, at the minute, there's 2 standout teams for me, and it's obviously Eastbourne and Leicester. They've managed to keep most of the team. In fact, it worked. Leicester did lose a rider, lost Ellis Perks, and gained Josh Bates. So they didn't lose. In fact, I think they gained a little bit there, to be honest, no disrespect to Ellis. So them's the 2 standout teams. Poole looked good. Glasgow looked good. Edinburgh looked good. But, it's the same sort of thing. We have a little disparity. Obviously, my team, Redcar, Birmingham, etc. We've struggled to replace riders that we've lost. But we will be competitive. It will be a good league. Like Chris says, I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to be emotional that first time the tapes go up on that first race on March 21st, I think it is, or 22nd, whatever it is. It's a Friday. I'll know it. That's all I know. And that's all I'm just waiting for. And genuinely, I will cry, because it'll be like 2 years of pain to get to this point. We wanted it to happen last year, and we tried everything that we possibly could, but deep down we probably knew. We know it's going to happen this year. This is going to happen, because of vaccinations, etc. So it is. It's certainly going to be a special week, that from the 17th onwards, definitely. And that's all I'm really bothered about. I don't care who wins or loses. The fact that we get Speedway back up and running in this country, for me, that's the key.
Well, you're due to be in action on the first day as well, Chris. The first fixtures on the 17th, currently at least, are Bellevue, Sheffield, Kings Lynn, Ipswich and Wolves, with to be confirmed at this moment. So you're going to be one of the first ones to the tapes, Chris?
Yeah, it seems that way. And I think it's just going to be good. I mean, as Rob said, it's been such a battle. I mean, there's a lot of people involved in running any sport, and in Speedway's case, people look at the clubs and the BSP Limited, and that sort of stops there. But you've got the Autocycle Union who do all the licensing. You've got the SCB, the Speedway Control Bureau, who oversee the sport and the safety aspects, permit all the officials and referees. And then we've been thrown into people like DCMS, government, local authorities, and all these other people, and it's been a lot of work. I mean, considering how little Speedway we've seen since March 23rd last year, it's been 10 times as much work as goes into a normal season, and so I think Rob's right. It's going to be emotional once we get going, and it'd be great to be involved on that first day, albeit away at the arch enemies, Kings Lynn. But it'd be nice to start with a nice sneaky little away win there.
I think that one is aimed firmly at Dale Allett. We await the response. Let's just speak about testimonials briefly, Rob, because there were quite a few riders due testimonials in 2020. Josh Orty is one of them. He was going to be having it delayed to this year, but he's decided to postpone that again for the time being. Tell us about the plans there and the thinking from Josh Orty.
There was a couple of people that unfortunately didn't get a testimonial. I think Neil Middleditch, Josh Orty, Todd Kurtz was the three last year. Obviously, there'll be other riders now eligible, because once they do 10 years service, they're eligible. It's the same as the Ben Fund this year. It'd be very bit of a risk for someone to put a testimonial and the Ben Fund in with the amount of fixtures that we've got to cram in. So I think Josh has done a wise thing. He's delayed it to 22, and that means he's definitely going to ride for me in 22 as well, which is really good to know. So I think it's a wise thing, and obviously, normality should return for 22. You just got to believe that that's going to be. So anybody with a testimonial or is due a testimonial, we ought to be embracing them in 22 and supporting them big style. So that's all I can really say.
And another big difference in 2021 for certainly the armchair fan will be a new TV deal for British Speedway with Eurosport, who are getting heavily involved in Speedway in general over the coming years as well, because they're also going to be taking over the GP coverage and indeed running the GP series. But tell us about this Eurosport deal and what it brings to British Speedway.
Eurosport bring 87 million unique viewers. They bring free-to-air with Quest. They bring a whole new idea of what they want to do. I mean, Chris could enlighten you on the changes that's going to be on race day and the package that's going to be shown on TV. But Eurosport are so enthusiastic for Speedway. It's like it's probably, like another TV company with football. They really believe in us. They believe in the sport. They love the sport, and they want to see it grow, and they want us to grow on Eurosport. So with that in mind, and the meetings that myself, Chris and Damien have had with them, there's no doubt in my mind that it's the best package that British Speedway's had for a long time. Chris could come in on that and just elaborate a little bit on what the show may be going to be and how it's going to be different.
Yeah, I mean, the future as far as Speedway, domestic Speedway in this country on TV is rosy for sure, because, Eurosport have come in, they've stood by us in 2020 when, obviously as a live sport channel, they wanted sport. We tried to give it to them. We put all the work in we could, but they were very, very supportive and understanding right from the word go last year, and continue to be so. So, they're looking to work with us to improve everything about, when you're viewing the sport on TV. They've got a lot of exciting plans. They want to try and inform the viewing fans at home a little bit more in depth about the sport and the bikes and the riders. and really get behind the scenes. The programme will be slightly longer, but it's tagged on to the end, so there's going to be a lot of informed stuff going on after meetings as far as actually watching it on TV, and a little bit more interactive with meetings that are going on the same night. So be getting updates with scores elsewhere and things. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes. It's all very exciting stuff.
Anything that means that you get a longer show has to be good news, and extra information, extra analysis and explanations about the technicalities of Speedway, because there is so much that goes into it that many passive fan probably doesn't realise that the science behind the sport has got to be great news and help out the understanding of the sport for fans old and new alike.
Yeah, exactly, and that's exactly what the team at Eurosport want to bring to their fans watching on TV. So, they're investing in the sport. It's not just the sport, the Premiership in this country. Obviously, as you touched on, that they will own the rights and will be running the Grand Prix from 2022. So, there's a lot of investment on their side going into the sport in general. So, they want to work with us and. It's been absolutely great so far, the talks we've had. It's very exciting.
It's all exciting stuff, and of course great that we're just a matter of a few weeks away from seeing competitive speedway back in Britain for the first time since the end of 2019, really, October or so. Rob, for anybody listening to this who perhaps is a little bit hesitant about going to their local track because, it's sort of alien for many of us to be out doing normal things again. What would you say to them in terms of reassuring them as to how safe British Speedway is?
It's everyone's individual choice, isn't it? But we are in the outdoors. The government encourage people to be outdoors. If anything you do now, you have to do it outdoors. That's the first thing to point out. And we got a lot of data from our meetings that were run last year. We got a lot of feedback. We had over 600 at one of the meetings at Scunthorpe, socially distanced. It's a safe, but it is the person's responsibility as well to make it safe. It is, and if you're not comfortable, you can wear a face covering. You can take all the precautions that you want to individually, but ultimately, we will adhere to any council instructions that we've got. We've done all the risk assessments already that we've done last year, and we'll make it as safe as we possibly can.
Yeah, Rob's right. We're all different, but we are all working very closely with DCMS and local authorities, and everyone is working towards making sure, as I said earlier, that the fans are comfortable, enjoy themselves. That's the most important thing, and of course they're safe. So 17th of May we'll literally be one of, if not the first sport to get underway, and we look forward to welcoming those fans and making them feel safe and giving them a good time.
My thanks to Rob Godfrey and Chris Louis for joining us on this first episode of No Brakes, No Fear, the official British Speedway podcast, and some exciting plans for the year ahead. Can't wait for May 17th to come around. Coming next, let's get some riders on.
Hey, Sam Masters here from Edinburgh and Wolverhampton clubs. I'm really pleased and honoured to be on the official British Speedway podcast. No brakes, no fear.
Sam Masters in conversation with Nigel Pearson after the break. We'll also hear from a man spending his final year in Speedway, riding for Plymouth and Peterborough. Bjarne Pedersen on the way.
No brakes, no fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
I'm Ian Brannan and welcome to this first episode of British Speedway's official podcast. It'll be here every Tuesday. Don't forget to follow and subscribe or whatever you do on your favourite app, and make sure you don't miss a new episode as soon as they land every week through the Speedway season. We're going to be catching up with one or two stars who are in action at Leicester's practice earlier this week. We're going to be speaking to Troy Batchelor before the end of this episode. Right now, though, we're going to catch up with Sam Masters, who's looking forward to getting back in action for Edinburgh and Wolves this season. He caught up for a coffee with Nigel Pearson.
Sam, you've been in British Speedway quite a few years now. How would you sum up your highlights? I know you've won things, Somerset and all that. What have been the highlights of your British career so far, would you say?
In 2013, I didn't get a visa and I had a year off. Then 2014, I came back and raced for Edinburgh and won absolutely everything, I think. And winning the final probably there against Somerset in the last heat decider, which was my old club as well, who had sacked me in 2012. To do that last heat decider and win that and get a 5-1 with Cookie to win the league that's probably my highlight, maybe.
What chance is Edinburgh of doing something like that again?
We've got to be in it to win it, and we're there. So, I think we can do that for sure with the team we have. We've got definitely a strong team for our home track, and that's the aim. Just try and win as many meetings as we can.
British Speedway itself has gone through a lot of changes. What are your thoughts on the Rising Star system then, Sam, with, the emphasis very much on riders who haven't got massive experience in professional leagues?
Well, I think it might take a couple of years to work, but I think it's an awesome thing. Poland do it, and they get some good young kids coming through, and I think it's a good thing for our sport. It's made hard decisions for some of the clubs to get rid of riders and all that, but I think it's a positive thing, and you'll see a change with all the young kids coming through in the future.
What about the World Championship? Can anybody stop Bartosz Zmarzlik, a third successive title, or can our old mate Woofy knock on the door like he did last year? And of course, Freddie Lindgren, who you know from your Wolverhampton time as well. Yeah,
it's I'd love to see Doyley being an Aussie win it again, or Freddie being a teammate as well at Wolves, who hasn't won it. But Zmarzlik's fast, isn't he? But he knows what the pressure's like, I think, to win two in a row, the third one. So he knows what it's like to back it up, and he's going to be definitely very hard to stop. But Freddie and Wolfie looks like they've been working pretty hard. Doyley's always quick, and maybe even like Emil or someone in there I'd like to see do quite good.
What about the prospect of seeing Crumpy in British Speedway this year in 2 leagues?
Yeah, that's that is awesome, and that's a shame for British Speedway what they had for 2020. They had Nicky and Crumpy and a few other guys from Europe come back to race in the UK, because they all know what it's like to race here. It's good fun, and it's a rewarding thing to win races in Britain. So Crumpy's sticking with us. He's doing the 2 leagues as well, so I'll be seeing him a bit, and hopefully have a few good battles with him.
Is he somebody that you look up to as a rider who has won 3 world titles? I know Doyley's regarded him as a bit of a hero. What are your thoughts on Crumpy?
Oh, when you're a kid and you're seeing Jason Crump, man, you'd get weak at the knees, because he was just he was a hero, and I don't forget that. But he talks to us boys like he's our mate, and he's a pretty humble guy, really. I didn't really know him that well until the last few years when he was racing a bit in Aussie, and it'll be good to race with him, and he's definitely a hero in our eyes.
Yeah, it's fantastic to see him back. Is he brave doing what he's doing at his age after so long off the bike?
He seems to feel like he's able to do it, so I'm sure, and I think he's admitted himself he's not going to be as fast as he once was. But again, British Speedway, it's enjoyable, and he knows he can come and make a little bit of money and have a good time. And I don't know why he retired in the first place.
And there's been a bit of movement as well with Swindon stepping out of this year. So in the Premiership, Sheffield have brought in Troy Batchelor now. And that's a significant move for Batch, isn't it? Because it's a club that he's never raced for before.
Yeah, it's a shame we've lost Swindon for the season. Hopefully they're back, and it's good that Batch has picked up a team spot. And I think most of the boys at Swindon, other than Doyley, who chose not to do Britain at all, they've picked up team spots. So it's good that everyone's sorted.
Just a final thought. Last year, of course, we did have the British final at Bellevue, and Rory Schlein, Roo Boy, was the British champion. Sam, you've got a smile on your face now. What's the prospects of you staying here for a few years longer and qualifying for the British final and becoming British champion?
I just got residency here in the UK, so I think I'm eligible to do that.
Oh, you're asking the question? Do you want us to get on the case for you?
Yeah, why not? But I won the Aussie title, so why not try and win another national championship? But maybe one day I'd like to still keep trying to race, win the Australian championship at the minute, and maybe later on in my career, maybe when I'm on an old band like Rory, I can...
He'd love you for that.
I can look at doing the British Speedway.
Well, there's one thing for sure. Riding in the Aussie Championship in January is a lot warmer than riding in the British final at Bellevue in September.
Oh, yeah, it's a whole different ball game, isn't it? So, yeah, different story.
What about that Bellevue track? It's wonderful, isn't it?
When you're in front, man, it's such an awesome track. But when your bike's not set up, you're scratching your head. I'll leave there frustrated, actually, sometimes because...
You've had some good races around there, though.
Yeah, I had some good meetings there. I've done the World Cup there and had a not a bad run there. And I think the track's changed a little bit, the surface, and that's from the early days. But, yeah, like I said, when you're winning races around there, it's there's no other track like it. The feeling is mad.
Imagine a Grand Prix round there.
Yeah, there'd be some good racing there, wouldn't it? So it'd be good to see the top boys all at once on that track.
And finally, Sam, just a quick message to the British Speedway fans who've been kept waiting all this time before seeing competitive racing. A quick message to all the British Speedway fans.
Yeah, thank you to the fans that have stuck with us in there, and I'm sure we're going to see some big crowds this year because as well as we take things for granted, I'm sure they've taken British Speedway for granted in the past too. So hopefully they all come out and yeah, thanks we need you fans to keep racing and be really good to see him again.
Sam Masters there chatting with Nigel Pearson, and one of Sam's fellow countrymen, and somebody mentioned in that piece actually, Troy Batchelor, who's signed for Sheffield this season. We'll hear from him before the end of this episode too. One of the teams that's caught the eye in the Championship is Plymouth, because they've made the move up and they've made a couple of massive signings in the form of Jason Crump and the ex-Grand Prix star Bjarne Pedersen, who's on his farewell tour of British Speedway this year before he plans to retire at the end of this season. He's been speaking to Ryan Guest, who started by asking Bjarne what attracted him back to British Speedway for one final season.
It's just come out, of nearly nowhere that my ever fit into two clubs. So when the chance was there, I was really up for it straight away. And lucky enough, in the end, it all turned out. So I'm really looking forward to be fair, and it feels just right. I spent so many seasons over there, and it's actually, like I say, just feel right to finish over there as well. So I'm really, really look forward to it, yeah.
Yeah, like you say, everything has fallen into place nicely. You're coming back to the UK with the Dublin Uproll, a new club for you in the top flight in the Premiership with the Peterborough Panthers, and also linking up with the Plymouth Gladiators in the Championship. Just talk us through why you opted for two clubs and how those moves came about.
Well, it was actually Matt Ford that texted me one night and say he was starting with the Plymouth was moving up, if I could be interesting. And, like I say to Matt, I never lock any doors. I was interesting, but it just makes sense. Like I say straight away to Matt, if I can get a team place in the top league as well, that'll really make it even more interest for me to do it. And lucky enough, Peterborough was looking for a rider, and I make quick contact to them, and everything was fitting right in, and I always enjoy to come to Peterborough. It's always been one of the tracks I really enjoy racing on. So it's great to actually go there now, and it's my home track.
Well, let's stick with Peterborough for the moment then. You've talked about the East of England Arena circuit there. You've talked about how exciting it was the last time you raced in the UK, but there have been further track improvements over the past couple of years, so that must excite you even more.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always great to, like I say, I'm just really just exciting to be back in England after sitting out for a couple of seasons now. So it's everything just feels right, and I'm really looking forward to it. And the two clubs I'm turning out for, I'm really happy to be a part of them. So I think we got it from some great teams, and just looking forward to be a part of it.
You mentioned the teams themselves there. Just looking at Peterborough, now there's the exciting rising star talent that is Jordan Palin. But as we look at the rest of the Panthers team with yourself, Hans Andersen, Chris Harris, Scott Nichols, Ulrich Ostergaard and even Michael Palmtoft to an extent, there's certainly plenty of years racing between the groups, shall we say. What advantage could that bring to Peterborough in 2021, do you feel?
I think, first I know, of course, Ulrich, Hans and Michael Palm. Of course, they're Danish. I know them very well, but also, I've been racing with Chris and Scotty in the Grand Prix together with Hans as well for many years. So it actually feels a bit funny we now racing in the same team and we are a couple of years older now. And maybe we are a bit of a different place, bit of different time in our career now. I'm sure we can click even better together now than if you put that team together 5 years ago. I think now we're looking, to make it a team effort. I'm sure that'll help a lot. We know each other so much, and I think we can have great fun out of it.
We've mentioned how you're returning to the UK with something of a bang as well with your Dublin up roll. And at Plymouth in the second tier, you're going to be racing alongside Jason Crump again. What a spearhead that's going to be for the Gladiators.
It's as great as also when, like I said before, I look on the Peterborough team. It's just also great, to have some of the old fellas in there. And, the same in terms of, how lucky is it. I'm pleased with Jason. He's there, and this just make it even more exciting for me to turn up because we Jason and me also have a lot of years together in the Grand Prix, and now we can hopefully we can put some of our experience into the young ones in the team as well. So I'm really look forward to be part of it and play my role in it.
Yeah, I was going to say, while yourself and Jason are going to be rolling back the years, if you like, and giving the supporters plenty of entertainment when you pair up in heats 13 and 15, no doubt. As you've touched upon, there's a lot of younger riders with much less experience in the Plymouth team. So you've got both just as an important role to play off the track.
Yeah, absolutely. I can remember when I was in Poole when Tony Ricardson and the Adams was in there, for sure that'll help them. They got Jason and me in the team, on and off the track. So it's always great when you have some experienced rider in the team who they can give you some advice and so on. So I'm sure they'll look as much forward to it like Jason and me do.
Have you had a chance yet to study the rest of the lineups in the championship? And if so, do you agree, or can you at least see why some people might be describing it as the toughest league to call?
Yeah, I see some of the lineup, and I think there's England can be proud of the league this year. There's a lot of great lines up there, and a lot of young. I'm sure there's a lot of young riders coming through as well, and I think that it's going to be a great season, and like you say, it will be very hard to tell who is at the top at the end of the year.
And even though Plymouth's another new club for you, when we skim through your CV and see Newcastle, Poole, Eastbourne, Birmingham and Leicester, that's your 5 previous British clubs who are all now in the Championship. So you'll certainly have some know-how of some of the away tracks.
Yeah, I always, like I say, I spent so many seasons in England. I enjoy to race these tricky tracks over there, if you can call it. If you look into England, there's a lot of more technical tracks over there compared to Poland and Sweden. So I'm sure it's going to be a challenge just to get used to them again. But just give me some meetings, and then when the body and the bike is work together again, I'm sure we'll get going over there. So I am looking forward to get back to places like Eastbourne and places like that. So yeah, very much.
Well, Bjarne, it's been great catching up with you. Many thanks for your time, and we wish you all the best for the season ahead.
Bjarne Pedersen chatting there with Ryan Guest ahead of seeing out his final season in Speedway with the Plymouth Gladiators and the Peterborough Panthers. Still to come on No Breaks, No Fear, we'll hear from a couple of the 2021 Sheffield Tigers who are getting some practice in at Leicester on Monday, including comeback kid James Wright and Sheffield's number one Troy Batchelor, coming up in 30 seconds.
No Breaks, No Fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
I'm Ian Brannan. Welcome to this first episode. Looking ahead to next week's episode with you next Tuesday. Every Tuesday releasing a new episode. Episode 2 will be dedicated to the practice sessions which have been happening. We've had reporters at many of them and we've got lots of interviews with various stars, both juniors and some more well-known names as well. So we're going to share those with you next week, and we're going to just dip into that pot right now with some interviews that we got at the start of this week at Leicester when there was a big practice session there. And a couple of the 2021 Sheffield Tigers were getting some laps in ahead of the season starting. In a few moments, we'll hear from James Wright, who's making a comeback to regular Speedway after 5 years out. He has been riding grass track, but he's going to be joining the Newcastle Diamonds and the Sheffield Tigers. But first, though, we're going to hear from one of the riders that had to find a new home at fairly short notice when Swindon announced that they wouldn't be partaking in the 2021 league campaign. Of course, they will be rejoining in 2022 after work to the Abbey Stadium has been completed during the course of this year. Troy's been speaking to Nigel Pearson.
Troy, you've done your first laps in Swindon last October. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, it's great to be back, but at the same time, you're just like, these bikes are fast. I think there'll be a few sore muscles tomorrow, the ones that you don't use, apart from riding. So, it's so far so good.
It's nice to have the sunshine and it's nice to hear the roar of the bikes again. It's been a big miss over the last few months.
That's it. It kind of, you just forget how long really since we have ridden. Like, it's been years since I've been here and just feels like years since we rode in England. I know we did Bellevue last year, but it's just a long time. It's kind of like coming out of hibernation and getting back into things. So it feels good, and hopefully things go to plan and we do get back racing. And I know I'm looking forward to it, and everybody here is as well.
And Sheffield for you, of course, big welcome from the Sheffield fans when you were announced. They were delighted. I didn't see that coming, and it's a big move for yourself. I think, without putting too much pressure on you, you're going to be the one that a lot of riders in this league want to be.
Maybe. Like the Sheffield thing was a surprise to me because Swindon just called me and like, we're not running, and I was like, wow. And obviously, Sheffield called me and I was like, okay, that sounds good. And, it is what it is. And I'm looking forward to working and racing with them, and I'll give them, my everything as per always. Number one on my back, that's pretty cool. And like you said, I guess there is a bit of a target because I'm like the highest average rider in the country and whatnot, but I'm just worried about myself and kind of stay in my lane a little bit. And like last year for me wasn't very good. There wasn't really much of a last year with the coronavirus and racing, and we didn't really get much. So it's just kind of, just start again really.
Wide open, super speed round Sheffield now as your home track.
I was thinking about it before. It was a long time since I've been to Sheffield, like maybe 05 or 06. That makes me sound really old, but it has been a long time. So, I'm sure I'll find my way around there, and hopefully we can get, press day and some practice and some laps to get used to it before the first meeting. I'm looking forward to it, and like I said, I'll do my best.
Sheffield's number one, Troy Batchelor, chatting to Nigel Pearson at that practice session earlier this week at Leicester. Another of the Sheffield Tigers present at that practice session was James Wright, who's going to be doubling up with Newcastle and Sheffield this year in the respective leagues. He's been chatting to Joe Appleton.
James, you're making your comeback after 5 years away. How does it feel to be back on track?
Yeah, it's really good. Enjoying myself out there. The track's altered a hell of a lot here at Leicester. It's definitely a lot more round, and it seems in better shape than it ever has been. I seem to get on all right. Just went out there and just held it flat out for 4 laps, and feels like I've never been away.
I think it came as a shock to some people that you made a return. How did it all come about?
Not really sure. I mean, I'd say it had been on my mind. It's always been on my mind, but I was enjoying the grass track and working and everything. And then Rob called me out the blue, really, and it went from there. And I was really enjoying my racing again, and I thought, maybe it's time to go back now and go full time. And I'm just grateful that I've managed to get 2 clubs this year, and that will help me out heaps to have so many meetings, because that's what I need. I just need more and more meetings. But I'm definitely going to go out there, enjoy myself, and give it 100%.
Yeah, as you say, it's going to be a busy year for you, doubling up Premiership, Championship, Sheffield and Newcastle. Sheffield, was that an unexpected opportunity for you?
Yeah, it came out of the blue, really. Got a phone call from the Bates family and asked me what my thoughts were, and we took it from there, really. And I always said I wanted to double up. I thought maybe during the season, do a few meetings, then hopefully an opportunity would come. But this came at the right time, really, for me, and I'm just going to take it with both hands. And it'll do me the world of good having two clubs and extra meetings, so it'll keep me busy. I just can't wait to get started, really.
James Wright speaking with Joe Appleton there, and there'll be more of that interview and the chat with Troy Batchelor in next week's episode, where we're taking a trip around the various pre-season practice sessions which have been taking place at tracks like Leicester, Redcar, Scunthorpe and Kings Lynn. And we've got chats with Chris Harris, Danny King, Kyle Howarth, Kyle Bickley, Sam and Harry McGurk and plenty more. So join us next Tuesday for the second episode, and don't forget, follow the podcast on whichever app you use so you get it as soon as it's available. You can also listen by asking your smart speaker to play the British Speedway podcast, and online at speedwaygb.co.uk. Also, through this season, if you've got an Amazon smart speaker, make sure you download the official British Speedway skill to get a short news update on the latest news through the course of the season. Thanks for joining us on this first episode. No Breaks, No Fear is produced by Nigel Pearson Media Limited for British Speedway. We'll see you next week.
No Breaks, No Fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Sports Social Podcast Network.